Here we go. Let's start a podcast. Okay. Oh, I bet you guys can't hear this, can you? Oh, yeah, you can. Okay. All right. Well, I don't have anybody on the air with me today. This is February. Gosh, what is the date? It's the 15th. It's almost the 16th. It's probably about 11:30 at night. And, there's occasions when I just stay up late at night and talk about who knows what. Haven't actually um, put any of these podcasts on um, online yet. So if you're hearing this or seeing this, you never know when I did this. This is 2021. So if you're listening to this or watching this, if it's 2025, you're like, where did this stuff come from? Oh my gosh, he's a husky. What is he wearing purple for? So, what is this podcast name? I have no idea. I'm just shooting from the hip here today. Oh, what I've been doing. Let me tell you a little bit about some of my COVID issues. No, they're not really issues, but everybody does a little something during COVID, whether they exercise or. But I started taking up piano lessons. So I'm having a great time. I'm learning chords. I'm actually getting my left hand and my right hand to start communicating with one another, and it's coming along. It's been almost a year. I can play a couple of songs fairly good. I don't have the piano next to me, so I'm not playing for you. Um, and I just listened to my first learning how to sing beginners YouTube thing. I'm not. I don't know if I'm ever gonna sing. Who knows? I think I've had too many voices in my ear saying, "Derek, you can't carry a tune in a bucket," um, and well, you're not supposed to be your own critic, so maybe I should listen to some of those critics. But whatever. If I am ever going to sing, I, I'm I'm clearly not going to let. I'm not going to be crushed by what anybody says. But if I have a desire to sing, which I wouldn't. I enjoy singing in the car, in the shower, and I'm really good as long as no one's listening. But I guess if I was gonna sing and anybody else were to hear me sing, I probably should take lessons and get some direction. So, and like one of the guys I listened to here just a few seconds ago, kind of give some lessons and learn your high and your low and get yourself a range to determine whether or not you're um, I don't even know all the terminology that he used, whether or not you were a tenor or a soprano or a bass or any of that. I don't know that stuff. I just heard it for the first time. Well, maybe not the first time, but um, uh, he said, don't hurt your voice. So the singing instructor was like, hey, my responsibility is to make sure you don't hurt your voice. So I'll probably, if I'm ever going to sing, I should take some voice lessons. So I have had a few people comment, because I do some radio, that my voice is decent for radio. And I have heard that I really have a radio face. Well, I don't know if that was funny or not, but maybe I could go. Anyway, we'll shut those guys up. This little podcaster thing that I have to do podcasts is pretty awesome. I don't know if you can see Rode Podcaster mic. I have two of them. I currently have it in a bedroom in our house. I had it at the office before COVID. Or actually, no, I don't think I was thinking before COVID about doing a podcast. No, wait a minute. No, I don't know. I think the podcasting thing may have also come during COVID. It took forever to actually get some of this equipment. It took probably 5 or 6 months because no one was shipping anything. Everybody was shut down. Everybody was sick. People were dying everywhere. Speaking of which, we should still be praying for our country, the world. Lots of people are still getting sick and dying from this epidemic. I got my shot a couple weeks ago. Got another shot coming up on March 7th. Somebody, I was watching Instagram the other day, and somebody did a little Instagram post that said, "Are you scared of the vaccine?" And she kind of looked. She went, "No. I had like 5 pieces of American cheese this last week. And hell, I don't know what's in that." So I kind of have to agree with that little Instagram thing. So we eat some stuff with a pretty high degree of faith, trusting that what is in the food that we are eating isn't going to kill us. I mean, really, we do. We put our trust and faith in a lot of things. Speaking of which, we should have our trust and faith in Jesus Christ. Hope you know that. That should be first and foremost on everybody's mind. If you're just listening to me for the very first time, you haven't heard any of the other previous podcasts, dude, I'm Christian all the way. I totally love Jesus. Hopefully, we'd never ever jam a Bible down anybody's throat, but always find opportunity to talk about how awesome and great He is. That He actually reached down and pulled me out of the muck and mire I was getting myself into. So, hey, what do we got for weather outside? Since it is dark right now, it's like 11:30 at night. There was a little bit of snow last couple of days. Everybody was shut in. You know, COVID shuts you in. The snow, the weather shuts you in. A little bit of snow, a little bit of ice. Talked to a couple of people from some different states today. One in Texas, and I think it was 18 degrees. My sister in Arkansas, and it was like in the teens. So everybody in the mid southwest, they're experiencing some cold. It'll warm up. Spring is coming soon. As soon as that Earth starts tilting in a different direction towards the sun, we should start warming up. So, what is today's podcast going to be about? Maybe let's take some glasses off. Should we get serious? Let's talk about, boy, I might have to edit some of this dead silence before we get a topic. Because, you should have a topic. Okay, let's think about something. No, I think I already talked about that. I talk about that all the time. Let's talk about getting clean and sober. That's on everybody's mind, isn't it? Should I quit drinking? Should I quit smoking pot? Should I quit snorting cocaine? Answer: yes. Duh. There's people have to learn some lessons. And as a 16-year-old listening to myself talk now, I would have taken whatever I would have said, and then I still would have done whatever I was going to do, right? But if you have wisdom, you might try to learn something at some point in time just to avoid pain. I mean, I know you gotta live life, but you don't have to do it in a ton of pain, right? So, um, alcohol. Let me start off by alcohol is not a sin. It's not. Jesus turned water into wine, so it's clearly not a sin. Um, Now, drunkenness obviously has its problems. And you get stupid drunk, you get behind the wheel, you drive when you shouldn't be driving, even though you know when you're sober, no, I would never drive drunk. But when we've been drinking, the logic goes out the not logic, but common sense, boom, out the window. And we think you can drive and you can't. Case in point, there was a judge on the East Coast that, after work, went out with some colleagues and had a few drinks. Only had a few. Right? The problem was this female judge didn't have body mass, a lot of food in her stomach, and the couple of drinks that she had, she wasn't drunk until she actually started getting behind the wheel, at which point the alcohol really hit the bloodstream. And wisdom went out the window. An individual, a judge, has the ability to make the wisest decisions of so many people. I mean, out of all of the people on the earth, judges tend to have some pretty high level of decision making ability, right? And we set them at a pretty high standard. So if a judge has the inability to discern correctly of whether or not to get behind the wheel after consuming alcohol, how can anyone be held to the same standard? Because we know that the consumption of alcohol changes your ability to make decisions, to make proper decisions. Now, there is an amount of alcohol consumed where you're good. You still have the ability. You're jolly. You're enlightened. You have, you giggle, but you're not hammered. You're not drunk. Drunkenness brings on a whole nother level of problems, and so people need to recognize that. And the unfortunate thing is the teenagers don't. You're 16, 17, 18, and alcohol just seems like the thing to do. Well, if you happen to be a teenager listening to some stupid guy, 53 years old, talking about alcohol, or your mom or dad made you watch this dumb video, learn from my mistakes, all right? I paid your dumb tax. You don't have to be that dumb. Wait until you're 21. And why? Well, number one, that's kind of the legal age in the United States. You've matured. If you're old enough to be watching this video, you'll clearly be able to understand that when you were in kindergarten and you were barely doing your ABCs, you know now, whatever grade you're in, 7th grade, 10th grade, freshman in college, you know now you have matured. You've grown. You can write sentences. You can write an essay, right? You're intelligent enough now to know you're learning and you're growing and you're progressing. You probably even know if you keep going to college, you could get a doctorate, you could get a master's degree, you're gonna get older, you're gonna get wiser. And I know that there's some things that you just get as you get older. Understanding the consumption of alcohol as soon as you can is super duper important. Just like driving. I mean, if you know how to drive now, when you were 15 with your permit, you probably weren't all that great of a driver, but you're good now. But you certainly, if you drive a car now, wouldn't give the keys to your 7-year-old brother or sister and say, yeah, can you go to the store and pick up some pop? No, you know that your brother and sister, they don't have the skills and the talent to do that yet. But they will when they're 15 or 16, right? Consumption of alcohol is the same thing. There's a progression that happens later when the mind is developed, when the body has grown, when your ability to make some decisions and to hang out with proper people when consuming alcohol, you don't just ruin your life or somebody else's, because this consumption, this beverage can ruin your life. It can. Just the same as a car crashing into a bunch of people can ruin your life and other people's lives too. So So be patient. Be patient with yourself. Recognize that 21 is the age to enjoy alcohol. 21 in Vegas, yeah, gosh. I mean, everybody wants to have a party their 21st birthday and consume alcohol and get hammered. It isn't worth it. It isn't worth it. You don't have to trust me at all. You don't have to believe a word I'm saying. You don't have to believe that gravity works. Waiting until you're 21 and just enjoying alcohol. You can enjoy microbrews. You can enjoy wine or champagne. Just don't mix all that together in a 2-hour span, right? Okay. There's my little tip on alcohol, drug consumption. Marijuana, the gateway drug, whatever. Probably doesn't matter. I'm going to circle around just about everywhere and bring it all back to Jesus. Do you know who Jesus is? Because if you don't, it doesn't really matter. You could worship marijuana, you could worship alcohol, you could worship a dollar bill. You could worship your son or daughter, you could worship your wife, you could worship your job or your job status. You could do all of these things. But if Jesus Christ is not number one, you're committing idolatry. And you probably recognize that your life has no purpose or meaning, or has been on a pinball course of just going from one thing to another and nothing really working well. And then you hit the reset because your ball went down the crapper and you have to pull the thing back and set your life in another trajectory. Now, get to know who Jesus is first and foremost. And then enjoy alcohol. Enjoy marijuana. If you feel like smoking marijuana, there's There's nothing that says marijuana is a sin anywhere. Being stupid isn't even a sin. That's just might be stupid. Uh, I heard pastor say one time, you know, blowing up stuff with a stick of dynamite. That's not sinful. But chucking a stick of dynamite might not be the smartest thing in the world to be doing, right? So some things aren't necessarily sinful, but just dumb. um, your life, my life, our lives, without a sense of purpose, can be pretty flat and meaningless. They lives can lead to despair when you have no purpose. And what is your purpose? Some moms might see being a mom or being a spouse is their purpose. And then all of a sudden, when if their spouse dies or their children die or their children move out and grow up and then their purpose of being a mom is done, now life is chaotic. What's my purpose again? Well, your purpose is to glorify God. That just seems so simple. Well, glorify God. How in the world do you do that? Whatever you're doing, do it to glorify God. If you're being a mom, be the best mom there is. If you're being a wife, a spouse, a husband, be the best husband you can be. If you're a son, be the best son you can be. If you're a brother or a sister, be the best brother or sister you can be. By God's grace, do that. That is your purpose, to glorify God. I think when we recognize what Jesus has done for us, it might help. So what did he do? Well, a lot of things that Jesus has done. And it does kind of circle around to this. What did Jesus do and why did he do it? Why did Jesus die on the cross? Is it because he committed a bunch of miracles? Is it because he healed a bunch of people? Is it because he walked on water or changed a couple fishes and bread into a big, huge buffet and fed 5,000 people? Did he perform free health care? Why did Jesus die on the cross? Did he raise the dead and that's the problem? That person should have stayed dead, so because he made him alive again, he should die? No. Jesus Christ died on the cross for our sins because he said he was God. And it's pretty clear to me, and you can read it for yourself in the Bible. The Romans and the religious. So you got the government and the religious people got together and said, Jesus is saying stuff and he's got to stop. He said he was God. He said he's the King of all kings, the Lord of lords. Well, that's going to mess with the government and the religious. And what did they do? They got together and decided he needs to go. He's being crucified. Well, now granted, God knew why he was going to the cross, to pay for our sins. And he knew what we were going to do. He didn't just go there not knowing. He went there. He laid his life down. He surrendered his life. So get to know what Jesus says. Because it isn't a relationship between me and you and Jesus. It's a relationship between you and Jesus, not me and you and Jesus. So figure out what your relationship with Jesus is and go from there. Because until you figure that out, you're going to be stuck. And life doesn't make a whole lot of sense without Jesus as the center of your life. As soon as you recognize that Jesus is your life and that he wants you and loves you and wants to have a relationship with you, everything else makes perfect sense. We can turn on channel 4, 5, and 7 and see all the evil in the world. And Jesus says, no, I don't want you going there. I want you to be with me. I love you. I want a relationship with you. I don't want you stealing, shooting. I don't want you to worship your race. So whether you're black or white, Asian, Caucasian, African American, Japanese, Chinese, Korean, it does not matter. If you worship your race and you think your race is better than any other race, you're committing idolatry. Because God created the heavens and the earth and everybody on it. All the animals, all the plants, all the trees, all the fish, I mean, it says in the Bible, all the little things that scurry around, all the cows and the bulls and all of them, the bears, everything. God created it all. And he started out with man. He didn't start out with man and woman. He made all the animals first, and then Adam had to name them all. So Adam and Eve, first man, first woman. And from there, it's where it goes. So they lived in the garden, and it was awesome. I could imagine how awesome it would be. Having dinner with God all the time. And then sin enters the world. Satan. And they share a meal with the wrong person. I've heard some sermons, and I'm not a pastor, so I could be theologically incorrect. I'm game for being corrected. So I know we have some theologians will, or at least some people will say we got two sins. You got the sin of omission, and you have the sin of commission. So things that God says we should do, but we fail to do them. And then things that God says, don't do those things. But what do? We do them anyway. So sins of omission and sins of commission, and just generally two of them. Can they happen simultaneously? I think in the case of Adam and Eve, it's very possible. I have heard some people say, well, who sinned first? Well, Eve did. She ate a fruit of the tree that she wasn't supposed to. But then it also says that she gave some to her husband, Adam, who was standing right there. So though she may have eaten food, excuse me, that she shouldn't have, Adam was standing right there saying nothing, and he should have. He didn't say jack. Sin of omission, sin of commission. Simultaneously. Someone did something they shouldn't have done, and another person failed to do something he should have done. Who do you want to blame it on? Well, at this point in your life, there's not a whole lot we can do about Genesis 3. It was a long time ago. So let's figure it out. Sins of omission, sins of commission. God says, do these things. I love you. Do these things. Worship one God. Honor your mother and father. Keep the Sabbath day holy. Love one another. I don't know what that noise was. So there are a lot of things that we're supposed to do. There's a lot of things we're not supposed to do. Don't take the Lord your God's name in vain. Don't commit murder. Pretty simple. Well, maybe not. Some people are tempted with that, obviously. Don't commit adultery. Boy, adultery. It just ruins people, families. Don't steal. Don't lie. Don't covet. You know, if we just did 1, 2, and 10, the rest probably would never happen, right? If you worship one God, and number 2, you worshiped him alone, you did not commit idolatry. You didn't worship anything other than Jesus, and you didn't commit, what is that? That's not, and you didn't covet. Because if you covet, understanding the definition of coveting is wanting something that somebody else has. That's having a desire for something that God didn't plan for you. Oh, she's hot. But is that the woman that God planned for you? Or is that somebody else's spouse? Oh, they got a lot of money. I should steal it. Oh, they're pretty high up on the leaderboard of being a manager or starting quarterback or what have you, or getting a gold medal, and you break somebody's leg. You commit murder. You sabotage people's lives. You lie. You cheat. You steal. Yeah. Coveting, it's a problem. So a lot of things that we should and shouldn't do. So get to know who Jesus is. Why not? Okay, what else should we talk about? How about not the World Series, what just happened? Oh, Tom Brady, dude's amazing. Best quarterback ever. I'm sure a lot of people wish he'd retire because it's the Tom Brady show every February where he wins another Super Bowl. But come on, give the guy some kudos, would you? How do you win so many stinking Super Bowls? Well, number one, I would imagine he would say this, and if he doesn't, he should. But I'm 100% positive he said it. Coaching, you got to have good coaching. A line, dude, you don't have a line, you're no quarterback at all. If you've got a line that's like a sieve, you can't throw the ball in 2.5 seconds. Right? It's physically impossible if your line isn't doing your job for a quarterback to successfully do their job. But it's not just the line. Running backs, you hand the ball off to them, they got to make holes and do their job as well. Because the defense, if it knows that there's no running back and all they do is play pass defense, well, then none of the receivers are open. So getting to the Super Bowl, you have to have the whole gamut, offensively and defensively. If your defense sucks and they just let everybody score every time they have the ball, well, you're never going to make it to the Super Bowl either. So the teams that win the Super Bowl have the whole package from beginning to end. The quarterbacks that do their job, the line that does their job, the running backs that clearly do their job, and the wide receivers that catch balls that you're just like, wow, right? And you have defense that stops the holes, that doesn't allow the wide receivers to catch their balls, and they make interceptions in critical plays. And let's not skip out on special teams players. If you don't have special teams that do their job, you're not going. I don't know. Did I just sum football up in 5 minutes? That's all it takes. You just got to be good in 10 different areas. Not a problem. Um, but Tom Brady, that's pretty awesome. That is pretty awesome. And it probably takes a, a special quarterback to get that huddle, to listen, to motivate these guys game in, game out, not only yourself, but your teammates. And and then you gotta also jazz up your defense too. I mean, just kudos to you, Tom Brady. Never met you, probably never will, but I think you're pretty awesome. And I went to UW, didn't play, but I went there and I cheered. So, what else? What time is it? How long have we been running this show? It's 11:56. It's not even midnight yet. We still got 4 more hours. We're not going 4 hours because who listens to a podcast for 4 stinking hours? Do you have anything better to do with your time than to listen to me? Okay, here's the next crazy thing we're going to talk about. Healthcare. Holy triggles. Healthcare is ridiculous. No, I'm in the insurance business, so I don't think it's ridiculous. I think it's necessary. I think that it's difficult to understand. Granted, I do healthcare 5 days a week, 8 hours a day, so I know healthcare. I know Medicare. I know individual health insurance. I understand it. I don't think society does. Um, there's a lot of people that do. I I think sometimes we feel like the insurance companies just want to charge us up the yang yangs. I think sometimes we feel like doctors don't know what they're doing, um, and I think those are some erroneous assumptions. Um, we have physicians and specialists in place uh, that have gone to school for a long period of time to be able to treat our gastrology issues, our cancer challenges, our cardiac issues. I mean, there are bones. There are so many segments of our health, from mental health to physical health to our vision, our dental. I mean, there's just it's such a huge spectrum of the body that I think the common person doesn't really realize what health insurance is all about. So, not only do people have health insurance so that if and when there are challenges with our bodies, that we'll be able to afford to have them fixed, a new knee, a rotator cuff, a heart valve, a heart replacement. There's so many hernia surgeries, cataract surgeries that people go through. We don't realize the cost of them. Not just the cost of the surgery itself, but the science behind it, the technology that allows specialists to see every vein of the heart. I mean, that piece of equipment didn't just poof out of nowhere. Someone had to pay for it. Someone had to learn how to make it. And then we had to get one in every hospital, in every city, in every state, all across the country. And this stuff wasn't cheap. We not only have hospitals, but we got hospital beds that recline, that go up and down. I mean, all of this stuff costs money. And some people look at it and go, well, let the millionaires pay for it. Well, why doesn't everybody pitch in? Should we go socialism and nobody pays anything and the government pays it all and we just have our income taxed at 40% like Canada and say, okay, the United States of America, you pay for all the health care and you can have 40% of our earnings. Yeah, I don't know. We're so close to the border up here in Washington State that I hear the challenges that are happening on the other side of the border. Uh, there's no perfect healthcare system in our world. The UK doesn't have a perfect system. Canada doesn't have a perfect. China doesn't have a perfect healthcare. Neither does Japan. Every place has its challenges. The US is no different. You got Medicare, you got individual health insurance, and it's going to be a work in progress. Um, how do we pay for it? How do we make it affordable? Is the Affordable Care Act actually affordable? Depends on where you're at in life, in the segment of life. Um, got to do the math. Are you to explain the Affordable Care Act in 2 minutes? If you're rich, you can afford to pay for health care. If you're not rich, you can afford to pay for health care. That is how the Affordable Care Act works. So this line here of the affordable health care is 400% of the federal poverty level. Now, Google that. 400. Google federal poverty level for 2021. You'll see that it's about $12,760 for a single individual. That's the poverty line. That's 100%. So 400 times 12,760 puts you about 50 grand. So there's the bottom 100% of the federal poverty level and 400% of the federal poverty level. The government has said if your income is between these two lines, then it'll be affordable. It'll just be a percentage of your income from 4% to 5%, 6%, all the way up to about 9.5% of your income. So if you're at 50 grand a year and you're single, you're going to pay about, 10% of 50 grand is what, 5 grand a year divided by 12. That's what's going to be your monthly premium, give or take 50 to $100. Okay. If you're over 400% of the federal poverty level, you're no longer eating top ramen and you can afford health care. Now, if you have 2 cars and 2 houses and a boat, probably can't afford health care anymore, right? That's not on the government's priority list. You could pay for health care yourself. You don't have to have 2 cars and 2 boats and 2 houses. Granted, you don't have that with 50 grand. But you see what I'm saying. So now, 50,000 for the individual is different than 400% for the family of 4 or the family of 5. So they have a line item. What is the poverty level for a family of 5? And then you multiply that times 400%. If you're under that, you'll see healthcare is affordable. If you're over that by 1%, you might see healthcare not being so affordable. So there's my tip on healthcare. I'm not wearing these glasses. So healthcare, what should you do? Should you be on a gold, silver, or bronze plan? I mean, should you pay a whole bunch of money to have coverage up front? Should you pay the least amount of money and be on a bronze plan? And the two plans have their needs, or at least we have our needs, and so they might work. Gold plan might work for one person, where a bronze plan wouldn't work. It depends on what your needs are. But mathematically, and I've said this a couple of different times, mathematically, a bronze plan pencils out to make more sense. So you will spend less money. If you have a year that is holy smokes, you will spend less money on the premiums of a bronze plan and all your claims on a bronze plan compared to the premiums of a gold plan and all the claims on a gold plan. You'll pay more out of pocket on a gold. Now, psychologically, the gold plan is going to feel like it's working, right? Because every doctor's office fits you got a copay. It's a little bit here. You only had to pay a little bit for your lab work here. Where a bronze plan, a lot of times, you pay. Boy, this plan feels like it doesn't ever work. Well, if you don't, or if you aren't really doing a whole lot, it could feel like you're paying for healthcare and it isn't really doing much because you don't have a lot going on. Where a gold plan, if you're doing a little bit, it feels like it's working. But you know what you're doing? You're shelling out a lot of money for that plan to feel like it's working. But in the end result, if you hit your out-of-pocket maximum, your premiums plus your out-of-pocket maximum will be here on the bronze plan. Your premiums plus your out-of-pocket maximum will be up here. Mathematically, this plan makes more sense. Psychologically, this plan feels like it's working a lot better than this one. So there is my Medicare health insurance 101. I didn't want to talk about Medicare. But health insurance, Affordable Care Act 101, just off the cuff. Should you have health insurance? Come on, let's not be stupid. Be wise. We've seen claims. My daughter had swine flu back in 2009. So now my daughter has spinal muscular atrophy, so she's in a wheelchair full time. Has been in a wheelchair since she was 4 or 5. She's 30 now, by the way. Be 30 in May. And she's absolutely amazing. She probably can't stand it if this makes it to the internet and somebody finds out who she is, because she does not like to be on the social media end of things. But this young gal, who, if you happen to watch this podcast and you hear about her, read about her, she was not expected to live beyond her teens. So for a mom and dad, and I'm stepdad, for us to see her at Children's Hospital when she was 18 on life support for 3.5 weeks in ICU for 33 days, thinking this is what the doctor said. She wasn't going to live beyond her teens. Boy, we prayed and we prayed and we prayed, and the Lord answered those prayers. She managed to cough up. The respiratory therapists were doing their job, and they sucked out this big, huge loogie, I guess you would call it, like a big old thing of egg whites. It just came out, and her lungs were free. And she's now 30. She was thinking about going to college when she would end up with the swine flu. She went to college. She met a guy, and he fell in love with her, and she fell in love with him, and they got married and had a baby, and now we're grandparents. Well, we were grandparents before her, but to to hear someone say, "Hey, your kid's not going to live beyond their teens," for her to be in her 30s and to get married and have a baby is pretty special. So I am very proud grandfather. I have other children as well, so they're I got two daughters, two sons, and two daughters, and five grandchildren. So and love them all. Being a being a parent, being a grandparent, it's the best. Really is. Um, okay, what else? What else can we talk about? Let's talk about swimming. Well, who wants to learn how to swim? Everybody should learn how to swim. Parents having their children learn how to swim. I think for me, now I have a swimming pool. I grew up in Seattle, and my grandparents had a swimming pool. Um, just spend time in the pool with your kid and your grandkids. It doesn't have to be so stinking serious. You don't have to be doing 500 laps by the time they're 3, right? Just blow bubbles. You know, I don't know. I just let them be on the steps as long as they want to be on the steps. Blow bubbles. I would I'd swim up to the skimmer thing, where all the leaves and everything go in there. And she both of the grandkids that were there would come up there, and we'd look into the skimmer basket and blah, 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 and just be silly with your kid and your grandkid. Blow bubbles. The more bubbles they learn how to blow, the more they learn how to keep that water out of their nose. The more water goes in their nose, the more they'll figure that out, and 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 that's the beginning. All of a sudden, they can keep their nose and their mouth underwater, and that's the start of holding their breath. Um, and away you go. Just they'll hang on you. Just let them hang, and they'll start kicking. Eventually, they'll be there. But if you force it, it won't happen. Just be in the pool. Be in the pool. You get in the pool first. Um, that's kind of my. If I'm in the pool, they'll come in the pool. Um, and I think I've been in that position with one granddaughter. I was in the pool, and she just was a magnet on me. My other granddaughter, not so much. Um, I don't know. She just maybe I was trying too hard. Maybe I was not encouraging or being the opposite. Of what I'm kind of instructing is just let them figure it out. Um, teach and be there and be paying attention. Back to the first point, don't be drinking a whole bunch of alcohol while you're watching your kid swim. That goes bad too. Um, okay, we did swimming. We've done a whole bunch of things. We're going on 54 minutes of fun podcasting information. Okay, what else? Boy, if you're watching this on video, I'm so sorry. What a mug you're looking at. What else should we talk about? How about life insurance? Now, how about retirement? Boy, where do you go when you retire? Should we retire? Looking forward to it. Do I want to live in a cold climate, a warm climate? Do I want to have a place in a cold climate and a place in a warm climate? if the climate is warm in the summertime here, and then in the wintertime I could go to the warmer climate and be warm there, now that sounds fun. But retiring, I don't think I'm planning on just sitting in a recliner the whole time. I want to be active, playing piano, playing pickleball. Boy, if you don't know pickleball, you got to figure out pickleball. Pickleball's the best sport ever. So I wonder if there'll be like word recognition on my podcast, whether or not whatever words I use will come up in YouTube or what have you. I haven't figured out how that's going to work. So if you just said pickleball, will I show up in the top 5,000? No idea. But hey, learn pickleball because that's the best sport ever. I've played football, basketball, soccer. What else have I played? I've played a lot of sports: racquetball, tennis, badminton, golf. Pickleball, number one. Pickleball is the funnest sport I've ever played. It is. I mean, not that I wasn't having fun playing basketball, and I was having fun playing football. Um, I was having a blast playing baseball. Uh, Pickleball is the funnest sport I've ever played. Maybe I'm just getting older, but it has all of the aspects of joy. You have people that you're socializing with. You have exercise that's keeping you healthy. You have some of the shots that people make. You laugh so hard, so there's laughter. There's it is has of all of the key elements of a fun game. For the fans that are watching pickleball, it is entertaining. For the players playing it, it is entertaining. For the referees, I've reffed a ton of pickleball games. And when you have ringside seat, some of these professional pickleball players, you're the closest player on the court. Just, I remember reffing 30 games because I got injured during a tournament, and so I couldn't play, so I had to ref. Not that reffing is, I had to ref. I probably learned more about pickleball in those 28 games of reffing than I did playing in the last 2 years. It was just phenomenal watching and seeing the techniques and the patience in the sport and the strategies that were going on and the communication that was happening without any verbal talking. It's just best sport ever. More fun than And whether you are 22, 32, 52, or 82, you can play this game. You can play this game. You do not need to be a super athlete. You'll play with people that are at your skill level. You just will. You'll find out that there are players that are better than you, and you won't play with those players. The better players, they probably won't play with you either. Now, they'll coach you, they'll teach you, but they won't hang out and play with you because, the skilled players just are really good. But even the beginner player has the ability to have fun right out of the gate. I mean, it is just, even in the learning process. Heck, they got Pickleball 411 on YouTube. You should click on it and go there and learn. I mean, there's just a ton of fun. And you could go to pickleball.com. You could order up paddles. You could order up nets. You could order up anything. You can get clothing. It's all over there. Get it. Go. Now. You don't have to click the subscribe button here. I don't care. I think we get paid if you do, but I don't know. I'm just starting. So, hey, it has been a pleasure talking with you today. Actually, there wasn't a whole lot of communication going on back and forth, but maybe soon we'll do it live. And then you could also join me with Kyle, really good buddy of mine. We are putting together a whole different podcast called, I think it's called The Two Imperfect Dads. We haven't nailed it down yet. I guess we're gonna, you just be creative in whatever you do and have a good time. And if you want to learn how to podcast too, you can do it. Derek Barnes, over and out. Oh, let's end in one of these. Oh, not that one. There we go.